It's time to blow this scene. Get everybody in the stuff together. Okay, 3, 2, 1, let's jam.
And boom, we're gonna get ready. We're just gonna get into it. And boom, what's up? Welcome back, goddamn, to another edition of Tell Me a Joke, the God Chasing Dream. I'm your host, the Maniacal, Menace. Said the whole thing like a pimp named Slickback. And we have the worthy traveler. She's came a good little distance to finally get out here. Great smiles. Put y'all hands together for Tamara. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me turn it up. There it is. We got claps. Hey, oh, thank you for making it. You made it here. We're here. How are you? How's your day?
I'm doing well. It was a nice drive.
It was?
It was.
How long is that drive?
It was about typically 3 hours.
Oh, okay.
Today, it was a little bit longer because of traffic.
Traffic is terrible on a Sunday. It seems like something extra is happening today, but it's just a normal Sunday, isn't it?
It is.
Ain't no holiday, or is it like?
It's beautiful outside.
It is. It's nice weather out. I do need to get on the bathing suit or something like that, and maybe go sit under a sprinkler. That's what I would prefer on a warm day like this. But you know, we're down here at the post, and we've finally made it. Would this be your first interview?
No, I've actually done quite a few interviews in Spanish.
Oh, yes. I was definitely going to get into that.
In Spanish. And actually, I think this is my first podcast interview.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, good. So how long have you been doing poetry for?
Okay. So I started doing poetry when I was in 3rd grade.
Oh.
Yeah. So I used to do poetry at my grandfather's church.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And then I started selling poems for 25 cents out of my father's store.
What?
And then
oh snap! Okay.
Yeah. So I would say that poetry has always been like a form of therapy for me.
Yeah.
But spoken word, I did not start doing that until 2021.
Oh, okay. So actually getting on stage and then performing and such?
Well, I would just say in the more of the spoken word format.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So back in the day, what were you writing? In 3rd grade, what are you writing poetically?
I would write about any and everything, believe it or not. My first poem was about Martin Luther King.
Really?
Wait. My first poem was about snow. And that actually won a contest.
Yeah.
And then I wrote a poem about Martin Luther King that won a contest in 3rd grade. And from there I started rapping.
Oh, wow.
Rapping, doing Christian rap.
Okay.
At the church.
that makes sense. It seems like that would be the route to go, especially. What was the store that your dad had that you were selling?
So it was
25-cent poems out of.
Well, so it was like a local convenience store. So it was a candy store. Those stores that sell like a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What? Mm-hmm. Where did you grow up?
In Ohio, in Cincinnati.
Yeah. Okay. So you're Cincinnati. Yeah. My homie's from Ohio. Like that. So that's a fun childhood. Did your dad still own the convenience store?
Yeah, he does. It's called The Hookup.
Oh, that's so good. Oh, that's a good childhood right there. So did you understand that this is where your life was going to take you?
Yes and no. So I think that we understand that our formative years have a projection of what our future is to hold, but I don't think that we always know the exact route that it's going to go. So I knew that every little detail would play a role into where I end up. Yeah.
Oh, I had no clue. I had no idea. Like, this is all foreign to me. I mean, it's here now, but I didn't know. I just thought I was a terrible kid, basically. Like, me growing up in school and the way I acted and all that, I thought I was supposed to do a certain thing, but then once I got older, I was like, I don't know what I want to do. And then comedy came around, and I was like, oh, this feels right. This feels like I'm supposed to do this, but nobody told me that was the route I could take. Like, nobody told me that was a feasible route to be having in my thoughts. But comedy didn't come up until, like, I was in college almost, you know? So I never knew, like, in my growing up, I wasn't like, yeah, I'm going to be a comic when I get older.
Oh, so, well, poetry is like one of the things that I do.
Yeah.
But I think that we all go through that throughout
Yeah.
life
Yeah.
at different points. Like you may think like comedy, but maybe next week something you learned in childhood might be like, oh well,
Which is
comedy plays a role and
Yeah.
this playing a role and that playing a role in
Definitely.
the whole bigger
the
role
whole,
that I'm
the
now.
whole scheme of things.
Exactly.
Yeah, the grand scheme of everything
Right.
is where everything that I've had finally came together. Like, because poetry came within the midst of me doing comedy, but I've always wrote. I've been writing since I was little. And so I never knew that was supposed to take me anywhere. I thought I was going to be a rapper or something like that. I thought I was going to be like my brother. You know, well, he rapped, but he was rapping. So nothing told me, hey, you silly, you should go do comedy, or hey, you should go do poetry. Nothing, definitely not poetry. Like I was one of those people that was like, poetry, why you want to go see poetry? Like I never knew that poetry could look like it does, like out here, like you see in Texas. Like I've always thought like, oh man, you about to go listen to some boring sadness? I don't.
So what got you interested in poetry?
Well, I realized that I had a knack for words just because I was good, because I wanted to rap. At one point in time I wanted to rap, but I understood that I wasn't real gangster, so I can't. And I'm a small man. I can't portray, like I'm real out here being real hood, and I'm too small for that. So it's like, all right, which route do I take? So I used to always write, in my therapist when I was little, she always told me to write my thoughts down. So when comedy finally came around, I was like, oh, this is nice. But then I've always had that aspect to where I would write my feelings and the poetry side of me, because I was always a hapless romantic.
Oh, okay.
One of those people. I have
Hapless romantic? Now what's that?
Now me.
I'm familiar with hopeless romantic, but
Yeah.
what's a hapless romantic?
Hapless romantic is meaning that me. I fall in and out of love real easily.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, meaning that as soon as I see somebody and I think we made a connection, like boom, that's it. We are together.
Wow.
We are together now. Here, take these poems, take these cute drawings of puppies that I drew. I drew you some puppies on construction paper. Here, this is how much I like you. And,
wow.
and just I would it would be a thing, because like most girls that I would date at the time, they wouldn't get stuff like that. And so I'm like, oh, I'm stepping up. I'm that guy. And so that's what I would do whenever I would court someone. I would write them a poem. And every time I'd write that person a poem, it would never last. It was like a curse. It was like, I should stop writing poems, because these don't last every time I write somebody a poem that I think that I love.
What were you writing poems about?
Love, just feelings of that person. Like I would write them a love poem, like a romantic poem for them.
Okay.
Not erotic, just romance type. Like, oh, that's sweet.
So what do you think about the poem would scare them away?
Oh no! It's not. Nothing scared them away. They enjoyed all of it. I'm just saying that after a while, like in my head, every time I wrote somebody a poem that I was with, no matter if we was together for 5 years, 10 years, 3 years, and stuff like that, we always broke up. Yeah.
So you're basically saying that you conflated those events.
Yes.
Which was like not a great connection, because one thing had nothing to do with the other, probably.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
It had none at all. Like the reason why we broke up didn't have to do because I cursed myself because I wrote them a poem.
Right.
That's just how I look at it.
That's how you looked at it then.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. I'm gonna stop writing these poems to women because apparently we can't stay together after I wrote this very sentimental, heartfelt. I poured my heart out for you, and this is yours, and now we're not together no more. And it's like, oh, okay, so I stopped doing that. But that was one of the things that I did. I've always wrote. So when it came to comedy, there was a situation where I ran into to where there was this woman in the crowd, and she was a makeup artist, and she was being very rude. She was very rude, and like she didn't have the right to be rude. She was sitting in the front, and she came late, and it's like, well, how you gonna heckle my friend on stage and also you assume that you are in the right because you had the right to? This is a comedy show. You shouldn't be able to do that. So as we're talking to her outside, she's like, yeah, I do makeup and such. And she was one of those people that had the eyebrows that go from like the bottom of her face to the top of her forehead. And I'm like, what expression gives you the right to go ahead and put this here? Like, I don't. And you do makeup like this. You get paid to do makeup. You do people's makeup. And I talked to the person. I turned to the person that I was talking to. I was like, "Would you let her do your makeup?" And she was like, "Hey, we're not talking about me right now. Don't bring me into this." And so from then on, I understood that I want to express how I feel about this person right here. I want to express it, but also what I'm going to express is going to be very silly because my comic brain was thinking, but the inside, whenever I feel as if I need to write something, I write it down. So that also jumped out, and I was like, okay, let me put this together. And as I wrote, where's you going with these eyebrows? That's kind of how I understood. Like, oh, I have a different lane because it's a poem that I wrote because I was expressing my feelings, but also it's very silly because I wanted to really talk about this person because you say you do makeup. And you come outside with this blocks on your face, and I do not understand what. So where were you deciding to go with those eyebrows? I in my head, and so once I finished that, then I understood that I had something, and I needed to continue making silly poems like that. But it comes from a real place, though. So and then it just kind of builds from there. And I'm real self-deprecating, so I like to go ahead and. I talk about other people.
Why do you think that you're self-deprecating?
Well, just so I can get ahead of other people because I've been made fun of my whole life because bullied and all that, But I was able to deal with it. Like, I understood how to deal with it. I understood that I have a way of words and I can go ahead and snap back, and that also I call it the 8 Mile. Sequence, basically. I 8 Mile myself. So if I talk about myself worse than what you can talk about me, you ain't got nothing to say. So basically that's one of the reasons why I do that. And then whatever I'm going to say about you is going to be a whole lot worse than what you could think about me. And now you got a rebuttal. Now you have to try to get back at me.
Is that like
don't?
So since I'm not in the comic scene, is that like a comic strategy?
No, because most people don't want to give you any ammunition. Like, I don't want you to know. I'm gonna need you to come up with your own. I'm gonna need you to come up with your own thoughts on how you how you look at me. And but the whole time, that's when you know you have a real good comic friend. When y'all come up and y'all just kind of bust each other's balls, and it's like, oh, you that's yada yada yada, and it's like, okay, I got a real good friend in this, but that's. You always thinking of something to tell this person every day. So I'm always thinking about what I can get told every day. So it's easy to self-deprecate on myself just because it's like, well, yeah, sure, this is what I am. This is what it is. I'm small. I'm a small man. I get it.
But so is Kevin Hart, and look how...
Right. He also, laugh at my pain. I'm a grown little man.
Well, that's why I asked if it's a strategy, because he will talk about himself first before anybody else.
He came up in the era to where they hurt feelings.
Yeah.
Like, they were friends, but he came up with Patrice O'Neal and Bill Burr. And so those people right there, they will eviscerate you without a doubt, like without even blinking or thinking twice about it. They don't care who's around. And so for you to be able to capitalize and get that person before they get you, because this is your whole ploy. This is why y'all are here. Like, this is why y'all do this. Like, it's one thing that, we're gonna go on stage, but also I'm about to shit on you real quick and make you feel bad before you go on stage. Hopefully you do good, and it's like it was like a building process. It's what built them to be a stronger comic. That's why it's like, if you want to go at Kevin, there's been a lot of people that try to go at Kevin Hart, try to take him down because he is small. He's a very small man, and there's no holes, there's no flaws. He will smash you. He will smash you with it. That's why he was the guy. If you probably haven't seen it, but the Tom Brady roast.
Oh yeah, I did see that.
He was the host.
Yeah,
and he did really good. Because hosting is a difficult feat, regardless of whatever you do. It's a different muscle memory that you got to go up on stage to, like, this person's gonna see me every time that somebody leaves the stage. Like, people that come to do a show, cool, you done your time, now I'm off. You have to see the host every time, and the host has to be there to be able to go ahead and maintain the crowd, like the MC person, moving crowd. So to be able to go out there, be the host, also it being a roast, everybody throwing jabs at everybody. And you still coming out there being a very small man. Everybody's taller than you. Kevin Hart's smaller than me, I believe. And
How tall are you?
5'3".
5'3", okay.
Right. And so, depending on what he's doing, what shoes he might be wearing, we are about the same height. So it's like, yes, do have thick skin, because as a comic, you do need to have thick skin. And I'm one of those people that's like, I'm prepared. And so I just, that's kind of why I do what I do. Yeah. Like what inspires you to write?
What inspires me to write? I would say I get inspired. This is a general answer, but I get inspired by pretty much anything.
Oh, that's fun.
So I say that in the sense of like, the camera can't see, but like we're sitting here looking at these group of people in front of us.
Yeah.
No, the ones in front of us.
The ones in front of, okay.
Okay. There's so many different things that you could look at about what's going on. So a comic might look, oh, what can I make fun of?
Yes.
But poets are deep. So it's like, I'm going to look at like, oh my gosh, like how did these people get connected? Like, oh, look, they have their arms around each other. They're embracing culture. Like, there's so many things that are positive that go into it for me that I'm like, this is deep. Like, it's just a normal scene.
That's
a
fun
normal scene for somebody else. But for me,
I like that you pointed that out, because the two different sides of it, because you're looking at it as a pure poetry aspect, and I look at it as I hope these people not saying nothing about me comedy aspect. Yeah. So I'm in my head, I'm garnering ammunition.
But look, that's good though, because there's a sense of duality. So even with both of us present right now, there's always a sense of duality. And I feel like duality is important because it gives us two ways to look at something. So even when you say like-minded, even if we do have similar thought processes, when we combine, sometimes we're looking at them from two different angles in order to have a full perspective. Because if we're both looking at the same perspective at the same time, then we're missing out on another side.
More than one way to skin a cat.
Yep. So someone has to be looking at the other side of things. And that's why I feel like that makes it easier not to be offended. Because it's like, that person is just looking at a side that I'm not looking at right now. So I can't be mad that side is not the same as my side, because it's simply just not the same right now. You see what I'm saying? And so that's why I have appreciation even for criticism sometimes, because I'm like, all that person is doing is offering their view in which they're seeing something right now. And even though it may like rub me the wrong way sometimes, I could be like,
needed. It is so needed.
It may not even be needed, but I can appreciate it. I can be like, you know what?
In myself, I'm looking for it, just because like this would help me with my podcast. Like those criticisms is what kept me going and continuing this podcast, because most of the time, especially when I sit down and do this, I'm like, why are you doing this? Like, what are you, like, that's what, before Phyllis left, before we even started, she was like, why you do this? And I was like, okay, so let me break it down to you. And I broke it down to her, and she's like, oh, that makes sense. It's a good method of why to keep something up.
So why do you do it?
Well, like I was explaining to you earlier, like even though it's like a guideline for somebody that wants to get into doing entertainment. Like, it is not easy. This is something to show people that, it's going to take time, and these are the things that you can do to do it. But we didn't have, it's not like we had anybody to teach us this, So when I do get feedback on what I'm doing, like randomly, like that's a great feeling. Just for somebody to be like, hey man, that podcast was, I love this, and I love them. Like, man, I don't even know who you are. You just, thank you. That makes me continue to keep this going. I
would say like seeing you do the hustle part of it, because there's so many times that I get stuck on small stuff where I'm like, I can't do this or I can't do that. So I would say that like even you inviting me here and then showing me like this is like not easy, because you were like, it took time to get here. But showing me like it's also not impossible. So I would say that like when I see other people chasing their dreams, even if it's not your dream, like we could have two separate like goals in life, but I'm like, damn, he gets up every single, Sunday or once a week, and he does this. Or even in my neighborhood, there were people from New Orleans that had or from Louisiana, had a food place that they set up every single, like a little hut that they set up every single day outside my gas station. And no matter if they got one customer, two customers, like they were consistent.
Right.
And I used to be like, man, like if they can get out here and set this up every single day, then it kind of makes you think like, if I have a dream that I really want, what am I waiting for?
Right.
So I do think that we all inspire each other, whether we realize it or not.
Right.
And sometimes we will never know if somebody's watching. You know how many people are here right now, and we don't know. Like, we see the people in our direct line of vision, but we don't know if somebody else.
It's funny that you say that because, like, I've actually gained a few followers from actually doing this here. That soccer team that came up, they was like, "Well, where can we follow you at?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, here's it." And then boom, 2 more people came from there, and then just from doing this, like, people, regardless, as you see, you might be able to see more people than I do, like. Whenever there's a camera or microphones up, especially they're colorful microphones, people are like, oh, what are they doing? What's going on? They have headphones on. I want to be a part. You know, everybody always wants to be a part, and it's very people like to be curious. You know, people like to wonder. So that it's always a fun thing, and to be able to get out here and show people, hey, it doesn't take much to do what we're doing. You know, this. Like, I try to do things on a frugal tip, to where it's like, oh, I only have so much money, and I can only spend so much on this. But what's going to get me the best quality with the best bang for my buck? And this is what I came up with. This is but 4 years though. 4 years it took me to get to this, and which is like, and so the feedback that I got from the quality that I'm giving. People are like, hey, man, that shit's smooth. Hey, man, I like that. Like, now that I have video for it, I can see definitely the numbers grow because I see more people that I've ever seen view my things. And it's just like, oh, it feels satisfying. It feels like I'm actually doing something now besides just throwing this out into the ether and then hoping that somebody catches on. It feels like I'm actually getting somewhere now, and I can see it, you know, it's starting to slowly build. Yeah. And so, you know, that from me listening to podcasts to me actually doing podcasts and me doing well in my own podcasts now, it's like, oh, okay, now what do? Now I get people that I like and build from there, basically. So we've never met in person, but I've watched you. I've watched you since you've been at the Poetry Lounge and the places you've been. You are a bilingual poet.
Trilingual.
What other languages do you speak?
So I speak English, Spanish, Portuguese, and Tagalog.
I never heard of that one.
Yeah, so I don't do poetry in Tagalog, which is why I said a trilingual poet, because I've done poetry in English, Spanish, and Portuguese.
Wow. Which one's the more difficult one to do it in?
I would say English.
Yeah? What?
Yeah. Because
this is good.
Yeah, because, well, I guess when you say difficult, I would say that in the sense of, okay, a competitive spirit, right? Like, it's more difficult in English because my brain having all the different languages, I don't keep up. Like, I constantly have to work on my English. People do not realize that. I have to work on my English because there have been times where I've been so dedicated to learning Spanish that I will consume crazy amounts of foreign language. And then I realized at one point, like, okay, my vocabulary in English is not at my peer group right now. Or, you know, like I'm using words that I still used in 8th grade.
Oh, shit.
And so then I spent like a whole summer, I would say like a few years ago, just reading books and writing in English and adding to my vocabulary to make sure that I'm still adding on to that. So when people talk about like learning a language, that is an ongoing process throughout your life. So when we talk about fluency, especially in linguistics, that's something that's very subjective because fluency is contingent upon like the person and what they define as being fluent, right? And so I would say that it's a little bit harder in English to keep up with like poets, like spoken word and everything. Because spoken word is not as big of a topic in Spanish. They have it, but that's a place where people can really like be forerunners and like start to create a scene, because that's not a huge thing.
Are you a native English speaker? Are you a native English
Yeah, I'm
speaker?
a native English speaker.
So you just like, I want to learn Spanish. And
yeah, I started learning when I was in high school. I studied abroad my junior year. I went to Spain, and it's an ongoing process.
Yeah.
So like, I'll try to take time a couple times a week or a month, and write down English words, write down Spanish words. And I'm fortunate because Portuguese and Spanish are closely related.
Yeah.
So most of the time, I learn one word, and it can be like, all right, I gained that word in English and in Spanish and in Portuguese.
That's cool.
Because there's cognates. So sometimes a word in English is also a word in Spanish and also a word in Portuguese.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay.
What is Tagalog?
Tagalog is what Filipinos speak.
Oh.
So there's actually different dialects of Tagalog, which range, I couldn't give you like an exact statistic, but there's a wide range of different dialects of Tagalog that people speak when they, if they live in different provinces.
Wow.
So Tagalog will be like the general, it's kind of like Spanish. So when you have Spanish, you have standard Spain Spanish. And then as you go to the different countries, you have the different dialects. So it's the same way in Tagalog. Tagalog would be the general dialect, but then they have like Bisaya and other dialects that branch off of that, depending upon the province or the location of the country that you're in.
Did you understand that this is the route you was gonna take when you got older? Like, you're a linguist, basically. That's. I got frustrated when it comes to. I was really good in Spanish in high school, and then I got to college because I didn't speak it with other people and stuff. It was just like, oh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to get up at 2 and 3. I don't want to get up early in the morning at 8 o'clock to go take a 3-hour Spanish class like that. What am I going to use this for? And now, and since I work in construction, everybody is Hispanic, and it's like, oh, this would have been good to have. I could have got a few more extra dollars on my paycheck if I was bilingual.
Yeah. I would say that I had a passion for language and connecting with people. So that's kind of the driving factor for me wanting to communicate with others.
Yeah, the more and more I see you, the more and more I'm like, wait, is she? I don't even. I thought one thing, then afterwards I'm like, is she from here?
What did you think?
I thought you were like Spanish. Like I'm like, what? So I'm thinking that you're just learning. I'm not thinking that you just learned Spanish and now you're taking it everywhere. I just thought that this was
my native language.
Yes.
No. So my mother is white and my father is black.
You can see that. That definitely makes sense. But you do, because you are speaking the language now, in my head, I can't see anything besides like, that's in her grandma probably taught her, right? That's kind of how I look at it. And I'm like, oh, no, I have a friend like does this. Like, 2 friends that just like, oh, that was fun. I like learn that language. And so they picked it up and now they speak it fluently. And it's so crazy to hear because his daddy is black, black, and his mom is white or something like that. But depending on what his facial features are doing, he can either look Pakistani, he can look Indian, he definitely can look Spanish. Like he passed for a big, but he like 6 foot something. So he passed because of his face for like somebody Spanish, but a tall Spaniard, and he speaks it fluently. And the reason he speaks it is because he wanted to talk to a girl that was her native language. And he did all that. He learned the language and speak it fluently just for her to tell him that she doesn't date black people.
Wow.
Yeah. Shout out to Paul Joseph. PJ, we miss you, man.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's like, well, now you got a language, you don't have her per se, but you got this language, which is amazing. And it's cool to hear him do that. Like, just to be like, wow. But when you see him, because he's mixed, it's like, oh, of course, you like somebody that doesn't know him would just assume that he was like Spanish or something like that. Mm-hmm. But it's like, nah, he's pretty black.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's different. It's a fun life. But how long did it take before you say that you had it down pat?
I would say I started when I was 15 in 9th grade, and it took me about a year and a half, 2 years to be speaking. I would say, I would say 2 years, because in order to go to Spain,
that gives hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In order to go to Spain to study abroad, you had to have a certain level of fluency.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I went there without my parents at that age. So
don't get snatched up. We don't want no takings.
Right. So they wanted to make, the program was designed for you. You had to have basic skills, beyond basic skills, really. They tested you, and then after that, they did a verbal test too, like to make sure that you.
How much do you need to know
in order to study abroad?
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's contingent upon each program, but the program I went to was IUPY, so it was a college program while I was in high school.
Okay.
And so I'm not sure entirely how they determined what was good enough.
Yeah.
I think honestly, that the written test, I don't know if I did too well on that, because then they called me in for an interview.
Do you not normally get called in for interviews?
Well, if I remember correctly, it was like, this is your last chance to get in.
Okay.
And so I have always been better at speaking and performing it versus doing it on written paper.
What in your head told you, hey, I should do this, I should do poetry like this? Like, when did poetry come about to say that you was going to do it?
I would say that I actually wrote my first poem in that program when I was studying abroad, because we did performing arts in foreign language.
Yeah.
So we did a whole play completely in Spanish. We had to sing and go to choir in Spanish. And we had like a mini talent show at the end of it, and I chose to do a rap in Spanish.
Yeah, come on. Okay. That's dope. So, all right. So how different is the same poem in poetry as it is in Spanish?
Oh, it's completely different.
It's so crazy because because the rhyme scheme of somebody doing anything in English, you can definitely hear a rhyme scheme. But when it comes to different languages, how does that?
So in the translation would be different, because I am a linguist, right? So the idiomatic expressions, the euphemisms, all of that, they translate differently. And so you're essentially changing the grammar, the usage of the grammar, the word placement, and even the meaning, the general syntax of it, in order to convey the same meaning. So you're not translating word for word. You're more so extracting the general meaning of the poem and putting it into the poem in the next language.
That's a lot to think about. But does it flow to you as you do it?
I have yet to translate one of my poems in English to Spanish, so maybe that's a challenge for me. I should complete.
So what you're saying is, when you decide to write a poem,
I write it in Spanish.
Do you have?
Yeah, so I think in Spanish. So I think in Spanish. I even dream in Spanish. Like if I'm watching a series of novelas. Yeah. Like there's, that stream of thought will carry on into the dream state too. Yeah.
I've heard instances where things are different like that. I've also talked to native Spanish speakers that when they speak English, I'm like, what goes on through your head as you try to? Are you translating?
So I was explaining this to one of my friends. There's something that occurs in linguistics called a transfer error. So that's when you are speaking when you're trying to translate, you apply rules from your native language to the language that you want to speak, and sometimes
And
it's
they don't
not
work.
correct.
Right.
So if you hear like Spanish speakers, sometimes they might say, I know at the drive-thru the other day, a Spanish speaker said that'll be like $9 with 63 cents instead of $9 and 63 cents, because in Spanish they use the word with instead of and when they're talking about cents. But all of that processes through my brain like at an extremely fast rate when I hear that. Like, they won't even know why they made that mistake, but I know why they made that mistake.
Do you read extremely fast?
Believe it or not, no.
Oh.
Because I think about and I analyze every word that I'm reading sometimes.
How is your reading comprehension?
I would say that it depends on what type of material that I'm reading.
Yeah.
So I think I have to be in like an extremely clear state of mind to read something that's like very like heavy, like information wise.
Yeah.
So I can pick out the important points of it and not try to consume it all at once, because that's overstimulating.
Oh. Wow.
But if it's like a novel or something, like,
yeah,
my siblings are pretty similar. Like, we can consume like stuff on our topics of interest that we like.
Yeah.
Like special interests or whatever. We could like read that at lightning speed all day.
Do all y'all practice language?
No, like I would say that my siblings are gifted in like different areas. Like my brother's extremely gifted in like history and mathematics.
Okay.
Like he went to Tuskegee.
Oh. All right.
Tuskegee University, and so one of the stories I love to tell about him is that he solved a chemistry problem using calculus, and they didn't want to accept his work, so he went to the dean.
What?
And complained about it. Yeah. And like, so I like the fact that like my siblings are all talented, like in their own different ways.
How many siblings do you have?
There's 5 of us all together.
Oh, fun. That's a big family. Are y'all close? Are you the youngest?
I'm the second to youngest.
You're the second to youngest. So you got some older ones up there.
Oh, like, yes, like all of them are older. Not by much.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's a good life. That's a fun life. Yeah. So you're growing up in Ohio. You know about snow and the cold and all that. Is this different to you down here? I mean, you're traveling to areas where it doesn't get as cold. How do you deal with that?
Well, I adapt.
Yeah, I can't. I went to New York and I was like, I'm not adapting well. This is too cold. I wore all my clothes. Like, I thought I would be prepared for cold, but I've never been in places that were that cold before, and it wasn't even snowing. And I'm like, I can't. Why is this? I don't, this is too much. It's too much. My bones can't take it. You know, It's something that I'm assuming you get acclimated to the longer you live there, but when you go other places, does that just go away?
No, I would say that I like the cold.
Really?
Yeah, I like the cold. I prefer environments that have the air on.
So good we're inside today. Also good that we came here instead of staying over there, because oh boy, it got hectic over there.
Oh yeah.
I am glad I am.
Yeah.
I got a little nervous still.
But so I guess I would say, because you asked me earlier, like, do you prefer outside or inside? So I think I adapt, but now that I think about it, I'm like, I prefer environments that are colder. You know how there's some people that would say like, oh, I would rather be cold than hot.
Yeah.
I'm one of those type of people.
I don't mind being comfortable. I want to be right there in the middle. I don't want to be too cold and I don't want to be too hot. But if I had to deal with something, I would prefer to be hot instead of cold. Yeah, that's just, but in my head, it just seems right, because I can take off more layers than I can put on, you know? So that's always the thing. And there's always ways to cool your body down. But when you get too cold, it's like, well, how do I warm up if all these layers ain't gonna keep me warm enough? It's like the thoughts. There's just so many feelings that came through. It's just, I try not to stray away, but ADHD just tells me like, hey, mention that real quick, just so everybody's like, where's eyes keep averting to? Don't watch my eyes. Don't watch my eyes. I'll be having to watch just because I don't. This is all this right here that right there, not the tripod, but what's on top of the tripod, that got expensive. And then it's just like, all right. But other than that, everything else was very reasonable. It's just, when it comes to the expensive things, like, oh be careful. It's just like, But yeah, this is life. So you used to drive all the way from San Antonio to here to come do poetry because that's what poetry means to you.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
The dedication. I love it.
So I think that's like the special interest thing. Like when I'm interested in bettering an area of my life, then I like to give it my all.
You're not the first person I know that does that. There's another girl that lady that comes from from New Orleans. Yeah, I think it's on the outskirts of like somewhere close to Louisiana, but she comes from there just to do poetry, just to come up here and do poetry. I'm like, what is your motivation? Why do you come from, it's like, well, where I'm at, they don't have it. And I'm like, that's understandable, but, how can you, she's like, I ain't got no kids. I ain't got shit else to do. I work, I make money, I got my own stuff. Why not? I'm like, yo, that's fun. I feel that. Because that's a good time. And, you do it more often than not to be like, I thought you stayed here. That's one of the things. I was like, I thought she was here. Eventually, I'm going to run into her because I'm on the scene. But it was always weird because I'm like, I don't see her. Like, you were here, then you're not here. Then I talk to certain people, and people are like, oh, no, I don't live there. I just come down there because it's a great scene. I'm like, oh, like Cloud. I've been trying to get him. I would like to get him on the podcast, but he's like, oh, man, I stay out in Philly, wherever else. He doesn't stay here, but he's gotten the popularity. And I'm like, you always here, though, dude. We go back and forth. He's like, hey, man, I like your shit. I'm like, I like your stuff. Like, what? It's like, I'm like, I thought they were here. So to be able to, for you to take the time out, too, to come down here, just, you're not doing anything else after this. You're going to go home.
Right.
Oh, I feel so privileged. Like, thank you. Thank you. You took the time. And it does take a minute. Like, in the beginning, this like, especially when you build something like this, I was a nobody. Like, people knew me from comedy and such, but it's still hard to get people that I have an interest in because I think they have some type of potential that'll go somewhere, and it's hard to get to those hard to get in touch with those people, especially if you don't know them and they don't know you. And if they haven't seen what you've done, and it's like, well, this person wants me to do what? Like, I don't know them. Why? So now that I've made myself more of an establishment. And I'm more established at what I'm doing now. It's easier to get people to join and get people to come because I'm gonna just be sitting in my room talking to myself, basically on the camera, and that's fun too. But to be able to find someone else's perspective or a narrative on someone else's life, or how they're traversing through what they do, because your life is very interesting for people that know. Well,
I think I want to go back to like what you just said about so in poetry, like when one person talks for a long time, it's called a soliloquy or a monologue, right? Yeah. I do think in general that for YouTubers, podcasters, it's important to have a conversation.
Yes.
Because I don't think that people realize the jeopardy of people's health from it not being a conversation and a person just giving a long sequence of their stream of consciousness thoughts. Like, that's a dangerous thing. Like, we're meant to interact and have conversations with people, especially if it's not scripted. So I think that I, myself, and this is one of the talents that my family says that I have, is I'm very gifted at organizing my thoughts inside my head, but I'm also not perfect at doing that. So that is why writing and literacy and reading is very important, and also like writing certain things down if you're on your channel or whatever, because the lack of organization in our thought structure as a people, especially since COVID, I believe has contributed to like a lot of the mental illness that we have. So I think that this is great that you're getting people together to have an actual conversation to where it's an exchange of ideas. Yeah. Because it's not even just the ideas that are being exchanged. It's us practicing how to communicate again after the lack of interaction that occurred before.
Oh, that's so fun that you bring it up. That you actually put that like you did. Just because Phyllis was, she was just saying, she was like, people don't talk to people anymore. People don't have conversations. It's like they have the conversations, but they have it through the internet. And it's like you're not getting a genuine conversation to somebody in their face. Like people don't approach people anymore to talk to them, and it's very weird when it does happen now because it's not part of the norm,
right?
And it's like because people don't know how to speak to people now, you know. And I see this everywhere I go. I'm like, man, and I was asking. I think she asked or I asked. I'm like, how you make friends nowadays if you can't talk to nobody? Like, what are we doing? She's like, how you make friends? I was like, I ain't got no new friends. I got the friends that I make through the associations that I attend. But other than that, nah, I ain't just going out making new friends. Just like, oh, this is my friend. We all be cool. I don't know their personality like that. And it takes a minute for me to find out somebody's personality if we're gonna be friends or not.
Right.
Yeah. And so, but the people that I do interview, I read the energy from them, and I know that they have potential, and I know that we'd have a like-minded conversation because we're into the same things. Not necessarily being into the same thing, but you know, like we have a mutual meeting where we do something that's similar,
right?
But our thought process on what gets us to there is totally different.
Exactly.
And that's what I try to reach out to. I was like, oh, I want to know why you here.
Right.
I want to know the process of what got you here.
Right.
Yeah. That's always exciting because you never know. Because your trilingual. Like I wouldn't have found that out. Like I didn't. The Filipino. What did you say?
The Tagalog.
Tagalog.
Yeah. The language of the Philippines.
That is even. Could you say? What is a phrase that they use normally? Because don't they? What is a phrase, a Tagalog phrase, that like a positive Tagalog phrase? Okay.
So you could, to say how are you is kumusta ka? Kumusta ka?
Kumusta ka? Like almost like como está?
Yeah. So they were colonized by Spain at one point. So they have a lot of Spanish words that are the same. So pantalones is the same.
Pantalones.
Tenedor, fork is the same. Mesa, table, the same. So they have a lot of the grammar is not the same at all. Sentence structure not the same, but they have words from the Spanish language that are essentially the same.
Yeah. Do you understand that Australians talk the way they do because they were colonized by prisoners?
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, the way they go die, Mike. They got colonized by drunk prisoners.
Oh,
and
wow.
so that's why, because they would always just be yelling out from the bars, and because that's where they brought all of their bad people, all the people that got, and so they would be in the prisons drunk, and that's why Australians sound like they do.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, you know, they're English. It's English, but it's just like they
have a unique accent.
Yeah. I do like a good, accents in language really it opens my eyes to certain things just because it's like the human brain is so amazing. Like there's things, so I'm assuming that your memory process is really good. How do you go about memorization?
You mentioned ADHD earlier. I like to think that is a superpower because I block out information that's not essential.
So
I feel like it's people go about it like, how do you remember? It's like, how do I forget things that are just like not important?
That's fun.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Because now that the knowledge, whatever I have is here, I can't get rid of it.
Well, okay, so for me, when people are speaking, it's easier to convey what knowledge is important and what knowledge is not because of the emphasis that they place on it.
Yeah.
So if somebody is speaking and they say, I'm going to the store and then the mall, the courthouse, and the pool, because they raised their intonation on mall, courthouse, and pool, that stuck out to me, and that implies that may be important. So I will store that out of the whole conversation where they may have said, just like, for example, with what we talked about, you're like, I remember the Tagalog. You remember the things that piqued your interest. We've covered a lot of different things but your brain is remembering the new information.
Right.
That piqued your interest, that I started putting emphasis on because I was excited about it, because there are things that I love.
Yes.
So that is something that's going to stick with you, and you didn't really have to work to remember our whole conversation.
Right.
You just paid attention to the things that the emphasis was put on and that I was passionate about.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I participate in conversations. And some people may get mad about that because they're like, well, I told you this stream of things.
It's like that's not how
week.
I think, though. I don't think that way.
Exactly.
I don't think that way. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, well, you told me a stream of things, but you made it sound boring. So I thought it was boring.
That was amazing. That's amazing how you broke that down like that. I'm like, I think this way. The way you're speaking and putting it verbally, this is how I think, and I just can't. I can't articulate it like
you
that.
do it too, because when I asked about this equipment, like I was like, well, what is this called? And you're like, well, this is called, and you slowed it down step by step, and now I'm gonna remember it.
All right. Well, you put it that way. Okay, sure. Sure, we've been doing the same thing.
We just do it at different moments.
Yeah.
So you may not know that like something you say sticks with the person, but I think I'm pretty cognizant of that. Yeah.
Oh, that's
and
dope.
as a teacher, like I try to put an emphasis on.
I know. Because you don't. From how I look, that's how you are in Instagram, Tamara, the teacher. Mm-hmm. But as I look at you, I'm like, the teaching gonna come out. I know it is. I ain't gonna let nobody know that she be teaching, but it's gonna come out, and there it is right there. I'm like, ooh, I need a notepad. I need to go ahead and jot this down. That made me feel good.
Right.
Make you want to learn some things.
Well, I'm also learning too. So I feel like the best teachers are the best students.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, somebody can sit down and listen and also give feedback as well. Mm-hmm. Criticism is very helpful. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's good. Look at that. Look how long we've been talking for. That's what's up. And that's exactly what you need right there. Just a good conversation. It's like, where did we go? We went everywhere. And then we came back. And
circle back around.
Right. Yeah. Oh, good. Well, to break up the monotony of everything before because I have just. I've learned. I've taken in so much. This was great. Just within the little bit of lot of time that we had, there's so much. You're a little fireball of just a whole bunch of just interesting facts and languages. It's like, do you get headaches often? There's just so much is going on up in there, and that you're used to this.
No,
this is life. This is what it is.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that's what the arts and stuff like that are for, to express through poetry or different avenues.
I say that because you have a whole nother language in your head, but it's like I got 20 poems that just ain't going nowhere in my head.
Right.
And it's like, okay, that's about the same. My head don't hurt from it. It's like, why would you? It's like, 'cause she's got 3 languages in there. They all kind of coincide, I would assume.
Well, I think it goes back to what we were talking about, where certain things are repressed until you need them. So I don't think like all of that is active at one time. It's just like as we open up these different compartments of our brain, then that's what we're choosing to like put on display. Because when we speak, we put our brains on display.
Yeah, yeah. Like, look what my brain can do. Like, that's amazing. Your brain's cool. Yeah, that's why. That's one of the reasons why I was like, I probably shouldn't. Because I do so much thinking that it's probably good that I didn't go into any type of UFC or MMA. Because
that's something that I don't know about. So I would probably listen more than I would speak.
My alternate life, if there was, if I could have split myself in 2, the other guy would be a badass, and he'd probably be beating people up.
Yeah. So do you do UFC?
That's the only sport I watch.
Oh, okay.
The only thing I watch. That and rugby. I played rugby, but I was a cheerleader, though. So
you were a cheerleader?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Oh, cheerleading's amazing. All right, basically, I started it because there was no gymnastics at my school, and so we had a small school, and I was like, well, I need somewhere to tumble. I got so much energy, I need to flip off of things. It was like, well, you can go become a cheerleader. And I was like, nah, man, that's real soft. I don't want to do that. Now I don't know about these motions and everything. I don't want to be a sissy boy like that. And then I got into it, and I was like, oh, this is actually pretty cool. And if I am going to do this, because I'm the guy that tumbles, I might as well do it and do it full out. So, like, I became really good, motions and all that. Like, I'm every competition or every every year we would have tryouts to see who would make the All-Stars, and I make it every year because I tumble. I stretched well enough to it because I was also in Taekwondo, so I had dexterity in me. So my toe touches were beautiful. I had very good toe touches. I won trophies for them and everything.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, the certificates, not trophies. I don't have the trophies, but I have certificates for a very great toe touch. And then motions were very clean, so I understand about. But I was also on a dance team when I got to college.
Oh, so you know how to dance?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you know, there was just like you were saying, this leads to that, and that leads to that, and certain things go to a certain place, and it's
Right.
like, oh, this is nice. So I cheerleading was my mainstay in basically high school, and I also did a little bit of it in college, and I had a scholarship for it. Yeah, but I went to all white college, and they were like, you take away from the dynamics of the picture when you're the only black person in the front, and so I made the team that week, and I was let go that Sunday. So yeah, there's like, you're a hazard to the team. I was like, damn, I'm a hazard. It was pretty dark. It was, I mean, good times. They thought they was gonna get their things back. I did not give them their things back at all. Like, you shouldn't have fired me. I mean, you should have got rid of me. I'm the best male cheerleader that you have on this team, but because it doesn't meet with the aesthetics of what y'all are trying to accomplish. Like, because I had friends that were really good too, better than most of the people that were made the team, but because they were of my color, they did not get to make it. And I was like, that's weird. But
So I was a cheerleader for 1 year.
Oh, 1 year.
When I was 8 years old.
Okay.
And my dad took me off the cheerleading team and put me on the basketball team. So I am a hooper.
I have the opposite. I have the opposite of story of you, basically. Like, I wanted to play football, but my grades were bad, so my dad took me off the football team. So cheerleading came next.
Really?
And so that's why I was a cheerleader.
See, I think that is interesting.
Yeah. See, it was crazy because it was very difficult for me to make the football team because I was small. Like, so there were certain football teams, if I were to try out, they would have to put weights in my pants so I could meet the weight requirement. But I was good enough to, like, play. Like, I was good enough to play and would not have to sit on the bench and be varsity or junior varsity or anything like that. So I made a team, and, like, to make the team, it meant a lot. Like, oh, this small man made the team? Like, I made it. And my dad was like, how them grades? And I was like, but I made it though, Daddy. I made the team, but them grades though. Like, I'm gonna pick the grades up. Like, don't worry about it. I got the grades. I'm on the team now. I can be like the rest of the guys.
Right.
And Daddy was like, nah, man, them grades ain't there. Get off. And I was like, oh, for real? He was like, yeah, you didn't do what you said you was gonna do. So get off the team. I was like, no, we just get our pads and stuff tomorrow. Like, I'm legit. I just got the roster. You couldn't have told me this before. All right. So there was no more football, and that's
But now you're an amazing tumbler.
true that.
You get how much? What is, like? Can you do backflips, somersaults?
I was
Tell me the most amazing sequence of gymnastics that you can
do. I
do.
can do double front flips. I can do double back flips.
Double front flips? Okay.
Double fronts, double backs. I do fulls. I can't do a full and a half, but I used to do crazy things. So I would shoot the gainer, punch front. All right. So I would basically, a gainer is where you back flip, but you go forward. So
Backflip, but you go forward.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Like the gainer, shooting stars. Lots of core. You definitely have to use your core. The way I would do it, I would kind of skip and just kind of launch my leg forward. It's all about momentum and force. So, like, me being a smaller athletic body, it didn't take much for me to go ahead and flip around. So I would shoot. I would do a gainer, then I would do a front flip, punch front. Basically, we call punch front. Step out, and that's when you you cartwheel, but then you don't. It's not a full cartwheel. You step out from it.
Oh, okay.
Your legs aren't together, so you step out.
See, you talk about how my brain works.
Yeah,
with everything,
I know.
with everything that's in my brain, navigating like any. So I'm good at basketball, but that was like muscle memory, right?
Yeah.
But when it comes to like learning dancing or anything that you're talking about, I feel like that has to be a different part of the brain.
It's muscle memory as well, but also this is muscle memory that comes with like, if you didn't work these muscles out, then it's gonna be difficult for the memory
to try to acquire that.
Yeah. And so that's why I was flipping since I was 6.
What?
So yeah, I've been always tumbling since I was 6. That's why I was like, I need gymnastics when I got to here. And it was like, all we got is cheerleading. And I was like, all right, I guess. And so and then competition, and then I would go to cheerleading competitions, and I was on a college squad once I left high school, and then there was more competitions there, and then they had other kids that I was like, I flip better than you, and it's like, nah, I doubt it, I flip better than you. So that's when I stepped it up more, and then that's when gainer punch front started to come in. Punch front.
So how does that play like a role? Does that play a role in your life now? Like, do you do anything that's associated with that?
Yeah, kind of, sort of. I used to, depending on what stage I would be on and how I would feel, just randomly, if I did well on stage, I'd throw a back tuck.
Hey.
I did that when I graduated.
Have you ever thought about coaching kids?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, especially in cheerleading.
Yeah.
That was one of the things that I wanted to do, but it's just like getting around into that field of like, for the longest time I had shoulder bursitis because once I stopped tumbling, like shoulders was messed up. I fixed it now, but I know once I get back into it, I really gotta, like, once I get into something and start it up again, and it's like, like I have to bring the family on board with me because I go pretty crazy.
Right.
Whenever I really get into something.
Right.
So I know those triggers. Some things I have to be like, let's leave this back in the past, because you know if you get into this, you become a different person. So it's like, all right,
I completely understand that.
Yeah, so it's like, all right, we all right, yeah. But yeah, cheerleading, dancing, I really, and my life growing up is very interesting because it's things that I enjoyed, but it's not things that people said I should enjoy.
Nice.
You know? So,
but I think it's very like courageous that you go against the grain.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's like the trait, because you asked earlier, like, how do you know that certain things, did you know that certain things were going to play a role in your life later? Right. So I don't even think it's like maybe necessarily the act or the thing that you were doing at the time, but what like value or attribute did you develop about yourself that you carry over into other stuff?
Right.
So I think like the courage to go against the grain and to keep persisting forward, that you brought that into like other things that you do, and that helps you a lot.
Yes, and that's why this has lasted for so long, because it's in my head to where it's like, if I do something, I'm not about to quit doing it.
Right.
So this is one of the reasons why I'm able to stick doing this, and there's certain things that I've started to where it's like, oh, this ain't gonna last long. And I know it's not gonna last long. I want it to last long, but it doesn't last long. And this here is like, oh, I'm here now. It's established. Like once I say you do it 1 year, then you're just trying something. It's a hobby. You do it 2 years, oh, you're interested. You do it 3 years and more, oh, that's what you do now.
Right.
That you in it. You are invested. 3 years? Yeah.
Look
you
at the little girl.
invested. Everyone's having a good time. Oh, there's so many people behind me.
Right.
You know, okay. How you feel? You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
No, I was just laughing because like the little girl was just looking dead at us.
Yeah, I know, it's very. We garner a lot of tension whenever mics and cameras are up. But before we get out of here, I do like to play a little game. Game of choices, just to break up the monotony of everything of all we've talked about.
A game of choices.
Yes. So you got 4 options and 4 choices.
Okay.
You got to be one, you got to raise one, you got to sell one, then you got to have relations with the other one.
Be one, raise one, sell one, and have relationships with the other one.
Yes.
Okay. Let's hear this.
All right. And your options are mermaid, Mogwai, Mexican, and a manatee.
Did the memory card get full?
Yes, that's fine though.
Is it still recording?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yep. No, I've already.
Okay.
And this is the point to where this doesn't matter. Like most. Did you even get to this section on the video when you watched?
No, I didn't.
I do this with everybody.
Okay,
exactly. So this doesn't matter. Yeah. As long as it's here, the audio is good.
Okay.
Hell
so
yeah.
be one, raise one, sell one, and have a relationship with one.
Yes.
Okay. So go ahead. What are the options?
Mermaid, a Mogwai, a Mexican. I'm gonna tell you.
Okay.
A Mogwai, a Mexican, and a manatee.
Okay.
And this is a Mogwai. Gizmo. Do you remember Gremlins?
Oh
Do
my
you
gosh.
remember Gizmo from Gremlins?
No, I've
Okay.
never seen the Gremlins.
Okay, good. I got you. Boop. 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 That's a Mogwai.
Oh, that kind of looks like a Furby.
Yeah, that's where this is. I believe that's where Furbies came from. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So be one, sell one.
Raise one in relations with the other one.
Okay. So now, what was the name of
Mermaid, Mogwai,
Mogwai,
Mexican,
Mexican.
and a manatee.
and a manatee?
Yes, I love alliteration.
Okay. So for the relationship, I would have a friendship with a Mexican because that is
Okay.
a person.
Yeah,
versus a Furby or a
we're not going
mermaid.
to, yeah, we're not going the crazy route. I love it. Okay.
Sell one. I would sell the Mogwai
Yeah,
thing
good.
because
We're not dealing with that. All right,
well,
I love it.
It's not deal. That is a rare creature that you cannot find.
Yeah,
That is probably going to be sold at like an extremely high price.
right.
So I would sell that.
It's okay. You should also watch the Gremlins movie.
Oh
And-
dang! But also the mermaid would be like a rare find too.
Oh, now you're thinking. Uh-oh.
Hold on, you said so. Okay. Nah, because okay, yeah. I would sell the mermaid because people know what a mermaid is.
Yeah.
You had to show everybody what a Mogwai was.
Yeah, that's true.
Because you
That's
already
true.
knew that I was gonna ask what that
Yes.
was. So the mermaid is getting sold.
Okay.
The other one,
Mogwai, Mexican, manatee.
the Mexican, is going to be a friend.
Okay.
And let's see.
You sold. Wait.
Just a sec. I'm not being any of those things. Yeah, I'm going to be nothing other than who I am. Even if it was a famous person, like you're you, I'm me.
Yeah.
So, there's that. So, what's left after that?
You raise one and sell one.
Oh, raise one.
Oh wait, you sold it. Be one. Okay, so you're not. All right, so you're you.
Uh-huh.
You're you. Which is you speak Spanish, so so you could just say that you're Mexican. You can say that you're being a Mexican.
Nope.
No, that's she's like,
Nope.
I'm having a friendship with the Mexican. I am being myself. Halle Bailey and Jason Momoa are mermaids. If you want to be a land breathing mermaid.
No, I
Nope,
would not.
okay.
I am not a mermaid. Negative.
All right, so you got sell one. You sold a mermaid, and you raise one. What are you raising?
So what is there? A manatee?
You got a manatee and a Mogwai.
In a hypothetical situation, I'm pretty sure that a Mogwai would be outcasted, and I would have sympathy upon it, and then
That's how you feel?
I would choose.
Okay,
I would
you choose
I would be like, yeah, like society has done you wrong.
That is a way to think about that.
So I will take you in, and then I could guess what? If I saw that it didn't have any like active intelligence, feelings, or emotions, then I could maybe sell that too in the future. Maybe, right? Like if I discovered that it had human intelligence and stuff like that, and like I grow like a real like emotional attachment, I wouldn't sell it.
Oh, you gave
But
this so much.
I did. I gave it a lot of thought because then it's like if it turns out to be nothing and it's just like a Furby that I'm raising that has no like human like qualities, then it's fine. Then I'll have two things that are rare finds that people might find some type of use for in their life.
Oh, that's dope. Oh, that made me feel good. Okay, good. All right, Tamara. Well, let everybody know where they can follow you at. Follow you, however.
Yeah, so on YouTube, you can follow me at Tamara the Teacher, TikTok, Tamara the Teacher, and on Instagram, I'm active, so it is Tamara is Teaching.
That's cool. All right, Tamara the Teacher. Tamara is teaching because I'm active.
Yep.
That's what's up.
Yep.
All right. Well, hell yeah. Let me hurry. We gonna hurry up and get out of here because it is It is getting overrun by people, and we are just evading space. So this has been Tell Me a Joke. The guideline of Chasing the Dream. I have been your host, Maniacal, Menace, Said the whole thing like a pimp. They ain't slick back. And until next time, man, keep dreaming, jokers. Y'all know how to find me. Yeah.